Hi and welcome to another exciting one. Today we are going to learn all about clothes simulation inside of Blender. We're going to start from the scratch and then we will work our way progressively into the more advanced and fun stuff. Along the way, we are going to learn how to apply the clothes simulation, how to use wind force fields to affect our clothes simulation, and then finally we create a very beautiful composition and render as our final project. So let's jump right into it. So first, let's start from scratch as always. So we'll go to general and then we start from scratch. By now you know what we are going to do next. Let's select these two shapes and then let's hit on to delete it. So first I'll add in a cube. I'll add in a UV sphere. The shape you add doesn't really matter. We are going to use this as the collider object. So I'll do S and then I'll scale it down a bit like this. Right click and then I'll shade it smooth. Right, and then next let's do Shift A and then add in a plane. Right, so we're going to use this plane as the cloth object. Let's do G Z and then bring it up on the Z axis like this. Right, and then let's tap into edit mode, right click and then let's subdivide. Right, so we can bring this subdivision up to something like 30. Right, I think 30 is fine, or we can do even higher, so let's say 40, but then make sure your PC can handle, because the higher the subdivision goes, the more smoother or the quality cloth you get, but then the higher it will take for your machine to calculate everything. Right, so let's tap out of edit mode and then with this object selected, we'll go and locate our physics properties and then we click on cloth to apply our cloth simulation. So as simple as that. Now if we hit on play, we've actually applied our cloth simulation to this object. So let me go back, but then the cloth have to interact with other objects, right? To be precisely this object. So let's select this object, come to our physics tab, and then let's make it a collision object. So I'll click on it and then I'll make this object a collision object. Now if we hit on play, our cloth is going to collide with this object to create this nice cloth simulation, as you can see. So let's go back, then maybe we can scale this down a bit, then do Control A and then we can apply the scale for this, and then let's hit on play once again. So now if I hit on play, you can see maybe it's a bit smaller, so let me just scale it up, Control A, and then apply my scale, then I can apply. Right, so this is our most basic cloth simulation being applied. So you can see it's not looking that great, and there are a few things we can do to fix that. So first let's select it, right click, and then let's give it shade. Let's shade it smooth. So you can see our cloth is actually intersecting with one another. So to solve that, we'll come down to collision and then we toggle this collision object and then we make it into self collision. Right, so now each cloth will actually collide with each to avoid that intersection. So let's go back again and then let's hit on play. Then you can see here our cloth is looking even much better, right, like this. So next, to make it even more nicer, we can go to our modifiers tab and then add in a subdivision surface. Right, as you can see, you can increase the levels if you want, but let's leave it at level 1 for now. So let's go back and then let's hit play once again. Right, you can see, as simple as that, we've created our cloth simulation. Simple and easy. Right, let's go back, select this, and then let's look at other options or other menus inside the physics simulation. So if we come back to our cloth, we have quality steps. If you increase it, the more finer your cloth simulation becomes, but then the longer it takes for Blender to actually calculate. Right, we have speed multiplier and other cool stuff. Right, we have the vertex mass, the air velocity, damping, and all that. You can play around with it and find what each step does, but right out of the box you can see that it works. Right, So other things you can play around with is Blender actually have some set of presets you can try. So let's go to denim, and you can see a lot of things change here. And if we play our simulation, it actually behaves differently, as you can see. So we can go back and then change to leather, and then play once again and see. As you can see, the leather doesn't actually fold as the other clothes, right? So you can play around with that one too as well, but I'm going to leave it as cotton for now. We have rubber and then silk, so let's leave it at cotton for now, and then let's continue on with our cloth simulation journey, right? So now let's say we want our simulation to affect certain parts, and then we will pin certain parts so that those parts are not being affected by the simulation. How are we going to achieve that? It's really simple. So let's select this cloth object, let's tab into edit mode, right? And then we can come to our the object data here, this icon here, and then we have vertex group, right? So let's just click on the plus to create a new vertex group, right? And then now if we select, let's go to our edge select mode, and then let's hold alt and click to select this entire edge here, right? If we select this entire edge, we can click here assign to assign this edge to this vertex group, right? Now if we tap out of edit mode, then we go to our physics properties once again, and we scroll down, you will see shapes here. So if we tap shapes, we can actually pin our vertex group to this. So we can actually drop down and then select our vertex group, right? So now this group, this entire group we selected is now a pin group. So now if we hit on play once again, you can see this side is not affected by the cloth simulation, and it always stays in place, right? One cool thing about this is, so as everything is in real time, so we can still affect our cloth whilst our simulation is running in the timeline. So if I select this ball and I'll do G, you see I can interact with the cloth in real time whilst the simulation is running in the timeline. How cool is that, right? As you can see, okay, like that. So you can actually interact with the cloth in real time whilst our simulation is playing. Okay, so that's one thing, and one other cool thing I needed to show. So we can actually add a lot of pin groups. All we need to do is select wherever we want to pin. Let's say we want to pin this entire vertices, right? Then we can go to this thing, and then we can hit on assign, right? Assign, and then it's assigned. Now if you jump out of edit mode, then we hit on play, this place is going to be pinned like that. Okay, and how cool is that? So let's go back, and then now let's tab out of edit mode. Let's remove this pin group for now. So we go to remove, so that this pin group are removed. So let's hit on play, let's tab out of edit mode back, and then let's hit on play, right? So we have something like this. So how can we turn this cloth into a flag, right? So let's select this object G, and then let's bring it out like this, and let's quickly create a pole to serve as our flag pole. So shift A, and then we add in a cylinder. We add in a cylinder, and then we change the vertices to 16, right? And then we can scale it down and then scale it up on the Z axis like this, then GY, and bring it back on the Y axis like this, right? So let's say this is our pole, so let's quickly shade it smooth, and just for demonstration purposes, let's say this is our pole. So let's go back, and then let's select this cloth object, then let's rotate it on the Y axis 90 degrees like this, right? Then let's scale it down so we have something nice like this, then G, and then let's bring it down like this. So basically we have this as the shape of our flag, right? So bear it in mind that we still have this end as the vertex group here, right, which is serving as the pin. So now if we hit on play, you can see our simulation is playing with this end still intact, and we have something like this. But actually our flag is not waving. So how can we make it wave, right? This is where we add in our force fields. So first let's do Shift A and let's locate our force fields, and then let's add in a wind force field, right? Let's position our wind at the back here. This is where we want the wind to blow. So let's do G, and then let's bring it somewhere here. Sorry, G on the y-axis, right? And then we can rotate it like this till it's facing our flag like this, right? Can position it everywhere you want, but I'm positioning it here. And then let's select our wind field, and then let's go to our physics properties, and let's increase the strength to something like 10,000, right? Now if we hit play, let's hit on play and see what happens, right? So as you can see, our wind is kicking in, and then it's creating this flag waving effect, as you can see. So we can actually position it in a position where, let's make it 20,000 and see what happens. So let's hit on play. Yeah, so just like that, we've created our flag, and it's affecting our cloth simulation by using the wind, like, right? So we can even decrease it to, let's just decrease it to 10,000, and let's increase the quality just to 10. Okay, and then let's come back and hit on play once again. So as you can see, our flag is in action and it's waving nicely. So that's it for the second one. Let's now set up our composition and then create a nice render, add in a PBR material, and then see how we can create a very nice render of a cloth. So I'll hit on X, and I'll delete X, and then I'll delete all the styles we don't need for now, right? So it's left with only this one. And then let's do Shift A, and let's add in a plane once again. Let's scale it up, right? And then let's tap into edit mode, do R, and then let's create a couple of loop cuts. So I'll create one loop cut, and then R, create another loop cut like this, and then I'll do G and bring this side up to something like this, right? Let's start out of edit mode, select this plane, and then let's add in a collision object, right? So now this object will interfere with this plane, right? So now let's hit on play and see what happens, right? So before we move any further, let's go and delete the pin group here, because we want this cloth to fall on top of this plane, right? So let's select our cloth, and then let's go to our shape, and then let's hit on this to delete this pin group, right? So now if we hit on play, we can see that our cloth is actually falling on top of this plane. So let's go back, and then we can actually rotate, position this cloth anyhow we want, right? Just to see the effect we get. So now we can hit on play once again and see how our cloth is being applied, right? So let's go back once again. This is just a matter of choice. Find what works for you. So I'm going to decrease the quality to something like 5 for now, and select my collision object, and I can increase the friction to, let's say, 45, 50 there. Let's hit on play once again, see what we get, right? So just play around with it until you find something that works for you. right? So once you find, I think this works for me. So it takes a lot of experimentation. So actually take your time, experiment until you find some settings that works for you. So what I did was I just increased the friction up a bit and scale this up, and then just rotate till I found something that works very nice, right? So I think this is fine for me. So now let's set up our camera, our light, and then let's add in our PBR material to create our final render. So I'll come to this side, drag to create another window here, and then click on this to set up my camera like this, right? I'll bring my cursor here, and then I'll drag to bring it up, right? Click to set up my camera like this, and then N, go to view, and then we lock our camera to our view, right? So now we can just move this object freely in our 3D scene like this, right? So next, the most important thing is to bake in our clothes simulation, since we found the right angle we want. So I'll select the cloth, and then I'll go to my modifiers tab, and then right click, and then I'll do apply as a shape key. So I'll click on it, and then it will be applied, right? So if we come to our object data properties, come down to our shape keys, you see we have 2 shape keys here. So I'll select the second one, and then I'll increase the value to 1, right? So it's cast and it's baked in place. Even if I move my timeline, this will not be changed, right? So let's come up like this, and let's change this to our shader editor for a second, and let's go to our engine, and let's change it to cycles and to GPU compute, right? Now if we hit on this, our object will be rendered, right? So for even more smoothness, we can select our object and maybe increase the subdivision to 2 for now, right? So next, let's add in some light. We are going to use an HDRI today, so we'll go to world, as we always do, select the background, Control T, then to creating our environmental texture, we hit on open, then we locate where we save our HDRIs. We can grab some from HDRI Haven. There's a lot of HDRI. If you just Google free HDRI, you get a lot of them. So I'll select this one, then hit on open to add in an HDRI, right? I think there's too harsh for me, so I'll select this and then open to add in a nice HDRI like this, right? So next, let's change this from world to object, and then let's select this object, and then we hit on new to create a new principled BSDF shader, and then let's add in our PBR, right? So what is PBR? PBR is a lot of how should I even explain? It's just a lot of accurately based materials that comes with different kind of maps. So we have normal maps, we have roughness map, we have the color map and all that. Then all of them combined to create a material which is very physically based, right? So there's a lot of sites you can get free PBRs to download. So all of these are PBRs. Example is ambientcg.com. I'm going to leave a link in the description. So if you come to ambientcg.com, materials, you can just search for any material you want. So in our case, we're going to use fabric, right? So there's a lot of fabrics you can use. I think I'm using this specific fabric. You can just select it and then just download the 2K version, right? I'm just going to go with the 2K version like this. You can go 4K, but then it's bigger and it takes a lot for your machine to render. So I'm going to go with the 2K version, right? So just click on it, download, and then unzip your file, right? So once you are done and you know where you've located your PBR material, all you are going to do next is select this object, and then you hit Shift Control plus T, right? Make sure you have the Node Wrangler add-on active. So let's do Shift Control T, right? And then it will open a box for me to select where I want to where I've saved my fabric material, right? So in my case, I think I've saved it into my tutorial folder. So I have this fabric here, right? I'm going to select all these 6 and then deselect this opacity one. I'm not going to need it, but I'm going to need all of the other So this one, this, and then this, right? So next, you just click on principled texture setup. Just click on it, and then it's going to, Node Wrangler is going to create this complex setup for you. So it's simple. We have texture, roughness, the normal map, and then the displacement map, right? Which are plugged in into their various places like that. Nice, simple. The last thing we need to do is to scale our material, our texture, so that it fits perfectly. You see that the scale is a bit off. So to do that, let's just jump into our UV editing mode, right? And then select one face, A to select everything. Let's make sure we are going to our look dev mode so that we see what's happening. And then come to this side, A to select everything, and then S, and then let's scale it down, right, to something like this. You can scale it down even more, right? So let's just scale it down to something like this. Now let's go back to our layout, and then we can see what we have, right? So it's looking nice and beautiful. Basically, maybe we can add in some lights here and there to work the shadows even more if we want. So we can do Shift A, light, and then let's add in an area light, G, Z, and then let's bring it up like this if we want. I think I can do S and then scale it up just to create a bit softer area light like this. Okay, so next let's add in an empty. So Shift A, empty plain as is. So we add in an empty right in the middle here. We can scale it down, G, then bring it up, and then we can place it anywhere within our scene like this, right? So with the empty place, let's add in a depth of field to our camera. So let's select our camera, come to our camera properties, take the depth of field, and then let's use our color picker to pick out our empty object, right? So now if we increase the depth of field, let's increase it to something dramatically like this. We're going to have some cool depth of field here, and then this place will be the place of focus, right? You can just position it any how you want, right? So we have something cool like this. Let's just add in a material to this here, right? And then we have this cool this cool fabric material ready for render. So the next step is to just go to our render properties, change our mask sample to whatever we want. I'm going to go with 1000, and then maybe change my color management from the look from none to maybe high contrast, which is too much. We'll go with medium high, or maybe medium contrast, which I believe that's not, right? So once I'm done, I'll just go to my file, and I'll go to my render, and then render image to render my final image, right? Thank you very much for watching. It's my friend. I hope you learned something from this. Please, if you did, make sure to subscribe and leave a like, share, do whatever you want to help the channel grow, so that I can be bringing you more quality content later. See you on the next one. It's my friend. Peace out. So this is our final render. If you want to save it, you just go to our image and then save, and then you can save it wherever you want. So in this case, I'm going to save it here, save as, and I'll hit on save to save my final fabric image. I hope you loved this tutorial. See you on the next one. Peace out.